my first question is, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on the infrastructure sectors from a very holistic and very strategic and at the hem vantage point that you have?
Well, as you can appreciate that COVID-19 is something which has impacted every aspect of life across the globe, whether it is life, whether it is economy, whether it is infrastructure. So everything has got a hit.
Sir, just one second. Just one second. Nikita, please turn your video on, please. Yeah. Sorry. No, your video is fine, sir. I'm just asking my colleague.
So everything has got a hit. And infrastructure has also been impacted by COVID. And there are two broad areas of impact because of COVID on infrastructure. One, you can understand that because of the COVID problem, the liquidity in investment in infrastructure has come down to a large extent. And second is that there's a demand size decrease also. And because of that demand size decrease, there is a decrease in the revenue stream of infrastructure projects. And thirdly, because infrastructure projects by very nature require a lot of construction activity and lot of labor management, etc. So because of this COVID, that has also got a hit. A lot of labor has gone back. Just hello. Print करके दे दो मुझे. So lot of labor has returned back, and it is a challenge and problem to remobilize labor, bring it to the point and start the work. So as a whole, there is a very clear and appreciable, impact of COVID on infrastructure in terms of investment availability, in terms of labor availability, and in terms of revenue, depletion. So these are the three areas, major three areas.
Right. And how is the government responded to it? What are the? I mean, of course, it's done a lot of things, but what in your mind are the ones which you feel are most important and will perhaps have the most impact?
Well, I think government has come up in a big way to sort out and to respond to various problems coming up because of COVID. And it's not only limited to infrastructure, but generally, as you have seen the announcements made by FM and PM and various schemes introduced, and various kind of regulatory, relaxation have been given. So the overall idea behind all this thing that there could be three type of different, support required. One is, of course, give various kind of regulatory relaxation, maybe in terms of deferment of, working capital installments, or deferment of interest on term loans, or deferment of, or giving additional time for meeting out various requirements, regulatory requirements in terms of infrastructure projects. Also in terms of declaring this pandemic as a force majeure, so that project, concessionaire can take benefit of this force majeure provisions. Also giving additional time for meeting out COD requirements and other kind of project completion requirements. So this is one set of support system which is given. Other set of support system is to bring more and more investment in this sector by taking various reforms, sorting out the problems which is being faced by infrastructure projects or sector as a whole in terms of attracting investment, removing bottlenecks. So a lot of work has been done on this, which includes giving a lot of positive signal to investors across the globe, Indian as well as outsider. And I can read it out some of the reforms which have already been implemented. For example, there was earlier a requirement for dividend distribution tax. Now that requirement has been waived off. Sovereign wealth fund and pension funds have been exempted from tax. InvIT and REIT structures are getting support for further maturing and bringing more money to investment. Then a lot of capital infusion is being made in various financing agencies to ensure that that capital could be used as further economic leverage to boost infrastructure projects. For example, we are putting up 5,300 crore to IIFCL for the additional equity. There is a 1 lakh crore agri infrastructure fund announced for farm gate infrastructure. Then there is an animal husbandry fund worth rupees 15,000 crore to be set up. We are also working on a VGF scheme with enhanced, support to social infrastructure projects with an overall size of 8,100 crore for 5 years. So these are some of the examples where government is trying to put more money into this sector so that that money can be used for further leverage. Similarly, we are working on setting up a C company, credit enhancement company, which can support project bonds, SPVs, raise their credit rating in order to get better response to bond issued by them. So deepening bond market is one strong area where we are working to ensure that bond market is developed in India, which unfortunately today is not so developed. Then the third area is a lot of focus and attention on PPP. So we are asking all the ministries to identify projects which can be taken up in PPP. And I can tell you that you might be aware about NIP, National Infrastructure Portal.
Right.
You can appreciate that in last 5 years, we have spent 56 lakh crores on infrastructure. And in next 5 years, after our target is to spend 1,11,000 crore in infrastructure. So it is almost double of what we have spent in last 5 years. To double it, one of the requirement is more support from private sector. And that support will come in terms of more PPP project. So in the last 5 years, it was somewhere around 20 to 28%. Now we are planning to have it at least 40% of private support into infrastructure. So as a part of all these things, so first we are requesting ministries to identify more and more PPP project. Second, we are asking ministries to identify assets for asset monetization, because there are a lot of mature assets available with all infrastructure ministries. Those assets should be utilized in terms of asset monetization to further get investment and leverage that investment for new infrastructure. And these assets are all risk-free assets because they are post-COD mature assets. And third, we are asking ministries itself to take reforms in a very, very serious manner, because a lot of reforms pertain to working regulations framework of ministry itself. And if any bottleneck is there, if reforms are identified, and NIP report has identified a huge list of such reforms, which we have shared with ministries, and we have asked them to implement in a time-bound manner. So these are, in a nutshell, various activities, various responses undertaken by government to ensure that the pandemic effect on infrastructure is mitigated, minimized, and it should be, rather than projecting as a problem, it should be taken as a opportunity to take on those areas, those sectors, and those focus areas which have not been taken earlier in a non-pandemic.
Okay. A number of follow-up questions from that, sir. Has the asset monetization, you mentioned asset monetization, we earlier heard a few months ago that post-COVID, there will be aggressive asset monetization. At the time, the thought was that COVID will be with us for a few months. Mr. Atanu Chakravarti had mentioned that to us in a video webinar in April. But of course, at that time, we didn't know how long this COVID was going to last. And now, if the COVID is still there, so has the plan been impacted by COVID, or what has been impacted, what has not been impacted? from asset monetization point of view?
In a sense, because COVID has, I can tell you, it's very difficult to, identify impact of COVID in terms of such nitty-gritties. Because in general, it has impacted. In a general, it has impacted everything. So there is an impact on asset monetization also. But asset monetization during COVID time, I have seen a positive impact in the sense that now ministries are well aware of this thing, that asset monetization is a big way, it's a big reform which every ministry has to take up in order to get more financing and funding for their further infrastructure need. So that is what positive outcome. I would not say that negative is a positive outcome which has come to all ministries because of COVID. That is one thing. Other thing is that a lot of assets have been already identified. There's a NITI-led report which has already identified assets more than 1 lakh crore across 5 ministries. And you might be aware that MoRTH has done some very good work in asset monetization. They have prepared 10 bundles of assets. First has already bidded out. They have received the money also. Second somehow could not take up. But third is again, I think award has been done. Money is yet to be received, but it is almost done. And rest bundles are going to be bidded out in near future. And so we have asked railways also, they are identifying their assets, other ministries are identifying their assets. So a lot of identification is going on and work is going on. And you would be happy to know that in fact, NHI is in the process of setting up one InvIT related to their assets. And PGCIL also, Power Grid Corporation of India, is also working on setting up InvITs on, asset monetization in power sector. So a lot of work is, Minister of Petroleum is working on it. So almost all sectors are working on it. I would take COVID impact as a positive impact in the sense of bringing this, understanding to all that asset monetization has to be done.
Now you mentioned, sir, that you expect the government would want greater PPP, private participation. So you're also pushing more projects. And of course, you talked about, now, of course, we've had the issue of banks being reluctant to lend. You're also talking about other measures you're taking, making it easier for InvITs, making it easier for debt funds, making it also the credit enhancement thing that you talked about, and also more money being available from asset monetization. So does that mean that a private sector participation as a percentage of investment on any project, will that be a lower requirement? I mean, because the money is hard to find for private sector right now.
No, I think in fact, I said totally, opposite thing. I said that requirement of private sector to come into infrastructure sector is today much more than it was during earlier time. And I said I have already given a data also that our expectation is that we should increase it.
Sorry, sir, let me correct myself. What I meant by lower requirement is not that, because you said the private sector will play a greater role. You wanted to play a greater role. But given the fact that their own financing position is not as good, what support could the government give to get greater participation? That's what I meant.
Yes. It's a good question. I think first is, of course, that you see that traditionally Indian infrastructure investment is bank-led finance. And in fact, 70% of money is coming from banks.
Right.
And banks are not the most suitable source of financing for infrastructure sector. There's a huge asset liability mismatch, and therefore we need to find out newer, innovative financing as far as infrastructure sector is concerned. So one of the way is to boost or deepen bond markets. Right. Now you can deepen bond markets. SPV can issue their own bonds, but for issuing their own bonds and getting a good response, their credit rating should be higher, AA+. Right. For that, credit enhancement is required. Right now, credit enhancement is being done by IIFCL. We are also thinking of setting up another credit enhancement company, which will also help and support to this sector. This is number one. In addition to that, we are also taking up HAM projects where 40% upfront payment is done by government itself.
Right.
and 60% is put by private investors, and that is also paid back to them in terms of half yearly annuities.
Right.
Thirdly is that we have a VGF scheme where we are providing VGF support to those projects which are economically required but
Right.
commercially unviable.
Right.
And therefore, there is a need to provide government support in terms of capex, and we are supporting that. And we are also working on enhancing VGF support in social infra sector.
Right.
So there are a lot of things, and then all sorts of these problems here and there, which are stopping a private player to get. For example, I said that we have given tax exemption to investment by sovereign wealth fund and pension fund. Now, who will get benefit of this? Of course, the private sector, because infrastructure investment is the most sought after investment by these funds. And there are a lot of funds, Canadian pension funds and Australian funds and UAE funds, etc. They are all willing to come. And with these kind of exemptions, more and more money will come into this sector. And of course, that will come through private sector.
Right.
So we are creating an environment where private sector can get finances at a lower rate and in a better enabling environment.
Right. And so we have greater participation. It's just that in addition to BOT, you also have HAM. And then, of course, on BOT itself, you're making it easier through various steps.
Yes. So reforms are underway. We are already working on various reforms which are to be done in concession agreement of BOT, which are to be done in concession agreement of HAM, etc., so that it becomes easier for the private party to come with better finances, and the private party are coming as partners and not as just vendors or contractors.
Sir, you mentioned that you are thinking of setting up, the government is thinking of setting up another organization. As you said, IFCL is one organization. Are you at liberty to tell us a little bit more about that organization?
No, I think that I told that we are thinking on setting up another organization for credit, support for credit enhancement.
Okay. And so it will be, will it be of a size similar to IFCL, bigger?
It is all under discussion. So
okay.
So
now you've answered many of the questions, and of course you also alluded to all the priorities that you have. But your priorities right now are to get the stalled projects moving, or is it to award new projects, or is it to get funding? I'm sure all of these are. How would you rank these priorities? They're all priorities. No,
I think it's a mixed priority. We are working on everything. See, you can see some of the projects which have come up in last few months or in last few years. If you can appreciate those projects, it's a mix of both. New projects are being taken up, greenfield projects. Many projects which were stalled because of various regions not moving up further. There we are working to move it further. For example, this PPP in station development, railway station development. It was there for quite some time. With greater push in recent months, you have seen the results that for various there are 50 odd railway stations to be developed in PPP mode, and there are different stages of development. For some, RFP has been invited. For some, tender bids have come. Some are in the stage of RFQ, etc. Similarly, running trains in PPP mode, and you have seen that recently RFQ for those trains have come up. So similarly, you can find in airport sector, you have seen that 6 airports have been given on PPP, and other 6 are in the pipeline. So in every sector, you can find out various projects which were earlier installed or slow moving. So there is a push to take it further to the logical conclusion. But at the same time, there is also a focus on finding out newer projects which can be developed under PPP mode and to take up those projects.
Okay. What would be your message, Mr. Purushottam, to the developers and investors?
My message is that this is a time, tough time generally brings best out of us. This is a general dictum, and I am a firm believer of that. Opportunities are always hidden in, in apparently distress time. In relatively better time, there are lesser opportunities. In relatively so-called bad times or distress time, there are far greater opportunities. So in the field of infrastructure also, this is the time which is teaming up with various opportunities. And opportunities are in every infrastructure, every ministry of infrastructure, be it railway, be it airport, be it shipping, be it petroleum, be it telecom, any sector. And then opportunities are there at various types of projects, be it greenfield, be it brownfield project, be it EPC, be it PPP. So there is opportunity galore. Now the developer have to identify those opportunities and to take up a kind of informed decision. Because many times we have also seen that because of the not so informed position, some projects are being taken up and later projects are facing various kind of problems and they got stalled because those issues were not fully considered by the project concessionaire before taking up the project. So I would say that this is a far better time. For example, there would not have been any time where at one portal there were list of 6,800 projects. And 40% of those projects are under implementation. So it's a huge list. And there's a lot of opportunity.
My last question to you, what is your DEA's outlook on recovery, GDP growth, fiscal deficit, etc.?
That question I am not competent to answer.
Yes, I know many people who think they're competent are not able to answer that either.
Doesn't belong to my division or my area of work. I think you can better ask a person who is fully competent and knowledgeable in these.
Economists. Okay, I'm sure you have a view, but
no, I think in DEA itself, there are other divisions who are dealing with this matter.
Okay, all right. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Purushottam. Thank you so very much, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you, and we hope to meet you in person. And of course, good luck for your new assignment. As I said, relatively new assignment. It's a very important, infrastructure is very important for the economy. And
thank you.
We want to do better, going forward. And of course, we will send you the transcript, sir, before we publish it. We'll send it to you so that we don't misattribute anything to you. Okay.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you.